Okay, so this is for the excuse me, wow, I'm really off with numbers today. It's for the 12th session of the Fractured Heart of Stathmore campaign. A little bit of recap in the last week. The party was chasing down this food thief, a ration thief, into this burned down house, figured out that there was actually a trapdoor beneath, and when it actually ended up in like this really huge dungeon after falling quite a while. In fact, they ended up fighting some troglodytes from, and if you know anything about D&D, troglodytes are from the Underdark, which is pretty deep in there. Um, so that means that the Underdark is now confirmed. There is a Ettercap with a satchel running around, and yeah, the players have to search around for these artifact fragments throughout this dungeon. So let's go to this one. Right to the south of where the Ettercap fight was, or excuse me, the Troglodyte fight with the Ettercap. There's a room, big, beautiful room. It's kind of strange, kind of jagged rocks, and up to like foliage up top, and just sunlight beaming through. Um, Now they discern that the it doesn't make any sense. They discern that it doesn't make any sense because the light is not as high up as they fell. So they kind of catch on that this room has some kind of magical um, aura to it, and they're not really sure why it's there. Um, it's just kind of there, just a big, beautiful room to let sunlight in, and it looks nice. So they goes down south a little bit more, and they find a room with pedestals. Pedestals. There's nothing. And it's about pedestals are level to where they are in that hallway, and it's about 20 foot up from just a plain flooring. So they have to jump across to the different pedestals to grab another fragment. So at this point, they have one from. Well, they left the one in the door. I forgot how many they have at this point. I think they have, yeah, they have, this is two, and then they grab this third one. Okay, so, they grab their third fragment, so, there's only 4 slots in the door. Okay, so they say they eventually do it after they, grab it. The room starts filling up with water, so that way they can either swim across or whatever else. Wendell, the ranger, decided to be cool and still try to jump across the pedestals, and he just every single pedestal flop into the water, swim to the next one, flop into the water, swim to the next one. It was very humorous. Um, so they're walking along. They see this one hallway. Like it's just a dead end. So they go to investigate. Step on a floor trap. 4 skeletons. They end up beating all 4. Really, I don't even think the skeletons hit them. So they're kind of just fodder, or as they would say, XP. Uh, so then they move on to a room with 4 statues of Drow. And this kind of cements the Underdark theme for this one dungeon, even though there's only been 2 little instances of Underdark personas. So all these Drow have green eyes. So they're like looking through like there's 4 different statues. So they check out the bottom left one, and they're like, okay, well, that's interesting. So Wendell does the logical thing he could think of and tears out the eyes, pretty much. He, pulls them out. Then he hits the final statue, and then he realizes that he pulls out one of the eyes, and he's like, this one's glass. Because there's a riddle to this entire dungeon. It's I think I explained in the last video. Behind false eyes lies the whatever fragment. So so they realize, okay, well, it must be behind this one. They check in the eyes, yada yada yada. Griffin tries to kick it, so he kicks stone, doesn't work. So they realize that there is a breakable wall segment, or actually a slatable wall segment behind there, and end up grabbing the 4th one. So great, they have all 4, um, which is good. And they make it to the door, and they look at all the pieces, and they say, one of these doesn't match. So they attempt to discern where the final piece is, but then they're like, oh, well, this might actually just be the piece. You know, it might just be something that, because I give them little images, the fragments of an image, and so they're sitting there trying to discern where the final piece is. But then they realize that okay, well, maybe this one is the final piece. So it's really comedic because Wendell keeps trying to put in these 4 fragments and they don't match. So every time he does this, there's an arrow trap that just I guess you could say bashes him with arrows. Eventually, they find the actual 4th tablet because there's a pedestal in the room. And if you remember the riddle, it mentioned something about the final one hangs above waiting its brethren. They're thinking, oh, okay, the door. No, there's one actually hanging on the ceiling, hanging from the ceiling, excuse me. And Wendell goes to go kind of try to jump off the pedestal and grab it. It was kind of a large feat, so he doesn't quite make it. But on the way up, Griffin tries to shoot it, rolls a 1, kind of hits Wendell right in his keister. So they eventually find that they grab that 4th tablet, throw away the one that doesn't match, put it all together, put it in the door, and there's a goblin, almost king, that welcomes the group and knows their names. Now, in order for Griffin to even attempt to speak to these guys, and by the way, there's like 6 goblins, a orc, and a goblin. What they seem to discern as a shaman. So in order to even attempt to speak to these guys, he has to charm person on Wendell, who fails to save. Tells him that he doesn't. The goblin boss tells him that he doesn't really care for this group known as the Red Wave, and so he's sitting there okay, well, if you just let us leave, even though we are outnumbering you, I'm going to be a courteous host. If you let us leave, we'll give you something that the Red Wave really wants, and this fits into their plan intricately, and this will help them fall apart, so that way we can, kind of sneak in. Of course, the party's never heard of the Red Wave, so that's another portion of this that another, I guess you could say, threat that has been introduced that they know absolutely nothing about. So Wendell eventually snaps out of the charm person, shoots the shaman or priest or cleric, whatever you want to call him, and Goblin Boss, realizing that there's no way to talk about this just yet, kicks off this burlap sack, which he was talking about, the Red Wave wanting, pats it behind him. So he kicks it off. It rolls off the platform that they're on, pulls the lever, platform falls, replaced with a metal slat. So combat's initiated, and they realize that that the orc starts glowing symbols all over him, and and the goblin, of course, the goblins are just being goblins. They're sitting there sniping them while the orc just rampages towards them. So this fight goes on for a while. Unfortunately, Lamont wasn't here for this fight or the entire session, and Matthew had to leave early, so I didn't have either one of their character sheets, so I was doing the best I could with fighting with them. So the goblins and the orc, even though some of the goblins went down, technically win, and they kind of leave their dead, but pick up the battered. And Alvaro, Matthew's character, is the last one up, so he actually picks everyone else up. They were just mutilated. So right now they're in a dungeon, mutilated. Alvaro's the last one up, picks everyone else up, and yeah, that's where it's left. So there's going to be a big reveal at the beginning of the next one. I'm excited for it. I've been thinking about this for a while now. It's kind of a cool plot hook. You guys will hear about it as soon as it happens. Well, it took me about a week to make this video, so I'd be a little bit late. But eventually, you guys will hear about it eventually. But thank you very much for listening. Take care.